Hello, good afternoon and welcome everyone to the Africam show, brought to you by explore.org. My name is Russell Gerber and thank you for joining us on another lovely afternoon in the African bush. As always, great to be with you all, and please feel free to send in your hellos and let us know where you're watching from. And please send through some questions if you have anything on your mind about the bush or things you've seen on the cameras in the last week since the last show. Or if we didn't manage to get to your question last week, please do pop those through and we'll do our best to address those as we go. Once again, a great show lined up for you. Of course, we'll be focusing on the live action. See what we've got hanging around. Of course, today we're starting at the beautiful Tau. We've got some heavy clouds this afternoon, so perhaps a little bit of weather coming in. I'm sure the animals of Tau would be quite happy with a bit more rain. And I suspect we'll still get some more over the next few months. As we start heading into March and April, it's generally considered the end of the rainy season, so hopefully there's still a bit more coming. And then of course we've also got some great highlights for you from the last week, some of the great things we've caught on the cameras. We'll get to those in just a little while as we look on at our beautiful plain zebra having a drink. A hot afternoon sun. That lovely little foal. I wonder if it's the same one we saw last week. I know there are a few babies around, but this little herd looks around about the same size. Certainly not 100% sure that it is the same one. We can pretend though. And there you go, one of the photographer's favorite shots. Zebras lined up having a drink. Well, you can see there's quite thick mud by the water there, and that little foal struggling a little bit more in the mud. And they do have to be careful, especially as we get towards the end of the rainy season and the water starts to dry up a little and the mud gets a little thicker. Every now and again we get the tragic event of a youngster getting stuck in the mud. But as you can see, not too bad just yet. That little foal making light work of the mud. Let's see who we've got out there for now. Stephanie H, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Good afternoon. Pat from Florida, back again. Cindy Drake. Luis Carlos Alves, welcome. Thank you to all of you for joining us. Always nice to have you, with the little giraffe sneaking along in the bush in the background. You can just see the head and neck sticking out as he walks along, walking towards the right hand side of your picture now. And who else have we got? Aviv Shemesh from Palestine. Welcome, Aviv. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're enjoying these lovely live shots. One of our most iconic animals, of course, the zebra. These are plain zebra. What used to be referred to as Burchell's zebra. Those of you not sure who we're looking at, a few different species of zebra in Africa, but down here in southern Africa, certainly in South Africa, just this species in this region. And if you go a little further south down to the Cape, In the Eastern Cape, we get the beautiful mountain zebra. This looks slightly different to these. They have a little brownish shadow stripe, the zebra we're looking at now. Difficult to see, it's a little bit far off, but I'm sure you would have noticed in our close-ups they've got a little shadow between their stripes. It looks almost like a shadow, and they call it a shadow stripe. And then those stripes go all the way down and meet at the solid black line down their belly. Whereas our mountain zebras, they don't have that shadow stripe. And the stripes don't quite meet at the tummy. They often stop just as it goes around the edge of the stomach. And you often see the zebra hanging out with wildebeest. Now, the zebra themselves are quite independent. They like hanging out by themselves, for the most part. But the wildebeest, particularly the big males who have territories, and often they have in those territories by themselves, they like to hang out with the zebra. The zebras are very looking out for predators. They're an excellent eyesight and hearing. And of course, for many of the animals, safety in numbers is a very important thing. One of my guide colleagues years ago said something to me that made me laugh, and he said the wildebeest don't hang out with the zebra because they want safety. They hang out with the zebra because they think they are zebra. And I suppose, as beautiful as zebra are, if I was a wildebeest, I'd probably also want to be a zebra. There you can see now that little shadow stripe between the clear black and white. You can see that narrow little shadow stripe, sometimes grayish, sometimes almost black they look on these ones, often a slightly brown color. And that is a giveaway for the plain zebra. Who else is out? Katiza saying hello from the hospital bed. Sorry to hear that. I hope you feel better soon. Thank you for joining us on the show. Hopefully we can make you feel a little better with the animals. Or maybe they'll make you feel better. I don't know about me. Thanks for joining us. Looking on at the zebras grooming each other and giving each other a bit of love. And now we've just gone over to the gorgeous Tembe with a wonderful breeding herd of elephants. I suspect they've just come from a drink at the waterhole and now making their way to one of the many little mud wallows created by the elephant, warthogs and buffalo, even rhino. All those animals very fond of wallowing in the mud. But there's not much cooler than watching a freshly washed herd of elephants. Look how dark grey they all look. Very neat and clean. And now they're going to go cover themselves in mud and sand. You can see this youngster actually laying down and getting a good roll in the mud. But you also see they're pretty dexterous with their trunk, getting up the mud and spraying it all over their body. Often they focus that mud behind their ears. And many of you will know, of course, they have a lot of blood vessels and capillaries very near the surface behind the ears. And those blood vessels play an important role in keeping the elephants cool. It's why you see their ears flapping back and forth all the time, particularly when it's hot. So as the water and mud evaporates, of course, it helps to cool down that blood and carry slightly cooler blood into the rest of the body, helping them maintain their internal body temperature, which is pretty important when in most environments in Africa, or in southern Africa, this time of year, you're going to be reaching the 30 to 40 degrees Celsius mark pretty comfortably most afternoons, and in particularly hot days, soaring above the 40-degree Celsius mark. And in which case, keeping cool is the most important thing for elephants. They're obviously very reliant on water as well. Elephants will come down to drink if they have water available. They'll travel long distances for it and come for a drink mostly twice a day, sometimes more. Kathy Barton says, "What a beautiful sight." I agree, Kathy. That is a beautiful sighting with the incredibly green grass and vegetation at Tembe. And a very happy and healthy looking herd of elephants. You can see this bigger one coming in at the end here has quite a large, or has a collar on it, a radio telemetry collar. Now those collars are often utilized by scientists. Helps the scientists to track the herd if they're doing research projects on them, whether it be population dynamics or population distribution, even behavioral studies, feeding studies, you name it. It obviously just helps them to keep track of them. You'd be surprised how easy it is to lose a 6-ton animal in the bush in Africa. It's a lot easier than you think. And they walk incredibly quietly. It's very, very big feet. If you ever look at a picture of the skeleton of an elephant's foot, the bones in an elephant's foot, they almost walk on their tippy toes. And those bones spread out with a thick pad of fatty tissue. It almost works like a shock absorber. And so they walk silently through the bushes. It's really quite amazing. OMG 23. Good day from a cold Kalamazoo. Welcome back, OMG. Now, elephants for me, absolutely an animal that I can watch a long time. You can see that elephant with the collar. It's got a bit of a, you can see her in the middle of your screen now, or just to the left of the middle of your screen. Now, she looks slightly older, and I'm not sure. It'd be difficult to tell just looking at it, but often they do put the collars on the matriarch. If you look here now, the one on the left-hand side of our screen closest to us also has a collar on. One with the slightly droopy left ear. Now that one does look slightly larger than the other, suggesting perhaps she is the matriarch. It's often the oldest. And more often than not, the senior hierarchical leaders in the herd are sisters. I'm sure many of you know elephant herds are very much a matriarchal society and led by the females. The big males generally off on their own or in small bachelor herds. They only ever really rejoin the herd once they are ready to mate with females, and then they move off again on their own. As we stay with this lovely sighting, it doesn't get much better than this live on the cameras. We did want to show you some of the cool stuff that we've caught on the cameras, and we've had some incredible predator viewing in the last week or so. And without further ado, we'll come right back to the elephants after, I think. Let's go to our first highlight of the day. And this is a species not commonly seen on the cameras. They are certainly around, and we do capture them from time to time for a short glimpse as they come for a drink of water. But if you watch this cheetah, which looks very much like a female, you'll see she is very tentative as she goes down for a drink, looking around for any potential danger. Now, many of you will think, but she's a big apex predator. How can she be so anxious? Well, in terms of the predator hierarchy, she's fairly low down. They don't have the power and build of the bigger predators like lion and hyena and leopard, so they have to be very careful. Other big predators will, if they get the opportunity, would actually attack her and potentially kill her simply for competition. But you can see, always very anxious around the waterhole. She knows she has to be careful. She also has a huge belly. Now, it's difficult for me to tell if she is pregnant or if she simply has a big fat food belly, which is very common. Cheetahs, when they do capture something, will gorge themselves as fast as they can, eat as much as they can, and will often then move on from the carcass because it can attract other predators. And like I said, they don't like to fight for their prey if they can avoid it, especially for bigger cats or hyenas. But she may also be pregnant. It's hard to tell if she is pregnant. She looks quite heavily pregnant. But a really cool sighting of one of my favorite animals for sure, the cheetah. As we go back live now with some more elephants having a wonderful swim. Now this looks like a group of boys, those bachelors that we were talking about. And you could see the one almost completely submerged. Little trunk sticking out. And of course they can and do breathe through that trunk. In many ways it acts almost like a snorkel when they're swimming along. Here we are, of course, at Olifants River now, in absolute full flow after the great rains we've had. And after looking at our little video, I did want to ask you sort of a combined quiz question today. if that cheetah is pregnant, what do you think? Do you think she's pregnant, or do you think she's just got a big full belly from a recent meal? And if she is pregnant, anyone out there know how long is the gestation period for a cheetah? How long is the gestation period? So let me know your thoughts. We'll get to the answer in a little while, towards the end of the show. Looks like these early bulls have the times, as the kids say, living their best life in the Olifants River. And while we focus on what the kids say, we've got a great joke from Charles Shea. I hope that's how I say your name. Please forgive the pronunciation, but Charles Shea's 3-year-old great-grandson asks, how can you tell an elephant likes to travel? He's always carrying his trunk with him. I think that is a fantastic joke. Thanks for that, Charlot's grandson, great-grandson. You can see these Ellie slowly going across the river. Look at that 1 second in line, or third in line. You can just see the trunk sticking out as he crosses over. Completely submerged, and then just sticking that trunk out to take a breath as they go over. So, yeah, I think I mentioned in the past, elephants are actually very good swimmers if they need to. Very often they're tall enough just to walk through the water, but every now and again it's pretty deep, as it is at the moment, and they can handle a swim. And it looks like we've got a breeding herd arriving from the other side of the river now. So these are often the kinds of situations where you'll see adult males come into contact with the breeding herds. Of course, the herds themselves will have young males in, generally not sexually mature. So they will still be with the herd until they reach sexual maturity. And generally, those males will leave the herd at around 15 to 20 years, depending on the herd and the matriarch. And then we'll go and join another bachelor herd, or even be on their own for a while. Once they reach that size, there are very few natural predators, and if they do come across some other males, they will often learn from the big older chaps, around 30, 40, 50 years old even. Generally speaking, as is the case in the wild, the bigger you are, the more important you are. And so they will learn from the big dominant bulls out there, and there will generally be one bull, maybe two, in those little herds that are dominant. And they'll often be tussling, even fighting each other, if they're evenly matched for dominance. So that can change, especially as a bull gets really old and loses condition. And Pounce D asks, is there likely more than one mature bull with a group like that? And the answer is yes, Pounce, often there is. Normally one of them more dominant than the other. We got a couple of answers to our quiz questions. Gail Stevens, is it the same as a house cat, around 63 days? No, a little longer than that, Gail. Thank you for your answer. Suzanne Mesner, got it pretty much spot on. Denise Herman reckons that cheetah had a full belly and not pregnant. I tend to agree with you, Denise, but again, hard to tell. Tammy reckons about 3 months gestation period, pretty close, Tammy. Diane Hostetler, spot on. And Palm Beach Black Diamond asking what the temp is. I'm not sure exactly, but as I said, I reckon around the mid-30s. And that's in Celsius, not Fahrenheit, so very warm this afternoon. And then Joyce reckons, I wonder if the elephants are aware of our presence. Well, Joyce, it's one of the great things about the cameras. We make no real noise. And it's a way of seeing truly natural behavior of the animals without disturbing them. And let's see, one more answer here. Mary Momo reckons not pregnant, just chubby. And gestation period, no idea, but guess 8 months. A little bit too long, Mary, but we'll get to that answer in just a little while. Before we run out of time, though, let's get to our second highlight, which was quite fun and a nice sighting for us, something we hadn't actually seen before. I know I hadn't. But this is the Torchwood Pride at Nkoro. Now, sorry about the lack of sound, but we're still working on our audio at Nkoro. Had some trouble with ants in the audio systems. But you see the Torchwood Pride with some very young looking cubs. Now, I haven't seen this cub before. And apparently we've seen 3 new cubs, but we only saw this one by the water. But a really special sighting. Now that cub, yeah, not particularly old. I would say probably only fairly recently reintroduced or introduced to the Pride. At around 8 weeks they tend to bring the cubs around and bring them back to everyone. And they get to meet their cousins and aunties. And then of course their dads, the dominant males if they're around. But there's not much cuter in the world than a lion cub, especially a lion cub in the wild. So I would say these cubs are pretty young, probably around 10 weeks, maybe 12. But since we've just started seeing them, as I said, normally around 8 weeks, that they are reintroduced. Yeah, it won't be much older, I'd say between that 8 to 10 weeks, I would guess. Educated guess, I will say. As we go back live now, with a gorgeous, looks like a big bull giraffe. I'm sure that's the giraffe we saw earlier, but we're going to go back to our elephants frolicking in the river. In the afternoon sun, there's really not much better of a wildlife sighting, or even an elephant sighting, than that, I must say. We had some really beautiful stuff on the live cameras this afternoon. The elephants being very cooperative with us, giving us some amazing sightings. I'll take one more elephant question. Gail, I'll come back to yours in a second. Gail Steves. But Tammy asks, can elephants kill each other in a fight? Tammy, they can. They are very strong. However, it's very rare for that to happen. I've never seen that happen. They can injure each other with their tusks, but it's, again, very unlikely. One tends to back down in an almost wrestling match eventually without too much injury, except their pride getting hurt. So even though they are absolutely massive and extremely powerful, the fights tend to be fairly brief without too much damage being done for the most part. Unfortunately, folks, we're running out of time, so I need to answer your quiz question for today. And the quiz question was, well, firstly, do you think she's pregnant or just heavily full after a big meal? As we head over to Rosie's pan with some beautiful kudu having a drink. Well, not too sure about the pregnancy. I think she looks more full than pregnant, but we'd have to have more info to figure that out. Let's see if we can get some info from the guides at the lodge. And then my question was, how long is the gestation period of a cheetah? Many of you were correct. Thank you for taking part. But the gestation period is just about 92 days. The little cubs, very small when they're born, around 200 to 300 grams, often around 5 that are born, usually about 3, but I've even seen a cheetah with 6 cubs before. Now, sadly, normally not all of them make it to adulthood, but every now and again the mother has incredible hunting skills. There's not too many other predators around and plenty of food around. Now, all those things have to fall together perfectly for her to raise 6 cubs, which of course she has to do on her own. That's a lot of mouths to feed for a cheetah. But well done to all of you who got that right. 92-day gestation period. As we go back live now to Tembe, looks like our breeding herd is heading off into the bush. And I think we will have to do the same as we run out of time. So I'm also going to wander off into the bush. Thank you everyone for watching. Such a pleasure hanging out with you, and great to have all your questions today. Hope you all enjoyed the show. We will of course be back again next week. Same time, same place. Please do let your friends and family know to come and join us if they're interested in the wonderful wildlife of Africa. You can come have a glimpse into the always live and always wild world of Africam. But unfortunately, as I said, we're out of time for today for the show. Stick around though, you never know what might come on down to the waterholes this afternoon. And some amazing elephant sightings already. But from all of us here, the Africam team, we'll see you all again next week. Thanks again. Cheers for now.